welcome to my comparison of two 1/12 scale model Ferraris. These are the first two in the run of limited edition super stroke hypercar Ferraris that started with the 288 GTO, actually officially the GTO, but commonly known as the 288 GTO. This model here is a Tamiya Masters Series or Edition Collectors Club plastic model. It's not a resin model though, and we'll talk more about that. From 1984 the car came out, but the model probably came out shortly after 2000, maybe in the mid 2000s, I'm not really sure. And the second car we have here is the Kyosho 1/12 scale Ferrari F40 in die-cast metal. Both of these cars have openings, and we'll compare the two. The first thing we'll compare is the general proportions of the car. Now, I would say that the Tamiya rides a little bit low on its suspension. That's the only thing I really pick up on this. The proportions of the shape and everything, the wheels and tyres, I would say is spot on, but it rides a little low compared to the real car. Whereas this Kyosho F40, I would say is spot on in terms of ride height and all the proportions, absolutely. Both are opening models, so both suffer a little bit from shut lines that aren't quite as tight as they should be. You're able to see through that gap there, for example, and on the Tamiya the gap over from the engine cover is a little bit big. This removable part, it fits very well, but it's not spot on. But then you'd only get good shut lines with a sealed model, and we aren't looking at sealed models today. Both of these are opening. And speaking of the fact that they are opening models, we have the tools that the models come with. On the left here we have the plastic wrench and picker tool for opening the apertures, and on the Tamiya we have a metal tool, which is your wrench, and you don't have a picker tool, but you do have a magnetic tool, which is good for opening the opening the engine cover like so. Now, does that also work on the doors? I've got strong repulsion there, I'm not sure why, on the magnet. Okay, so maybe the magnets are supposed to be in there, but they're the wrong way around. There's no reason I'd have strong repulsion on a plastic car, so my suspicion there is they've made a manufacturing mistake, although I could be wrong. Right, let's start opening these models up. So, the first thing to come is the headlight, the pop-up headlights. Both have pop-up headlights, and this picker tool is able to open those, and it simultaneously opens both sides. Nice and easy. Now, the shut lines, because you needed to get the picker tool in there, the shut lines, well, no, they're pretty good. They're not, it's not ridiculous to have a gap to get in there. This one, the Tamiya, to open them you press on the, where is it? There we go, you press on one of these the outer lower headlight, and it pops open on that side, and we do the same on this one. So that's quite a cool feature. None of this bopping around, none of this picking. So there we have both of the cars with the headlights open. Right, okay. Before I go further, actually, I really should talk about the finish of the cars, because the paint finish on the Kyosho isn't perfect. You can see tiny little bubbling along there, whereas because, well, this is a plastic model, now I'm going to assume it's painted. I don't really know, but it's got a marvellous finish. It's absolutely excellent. This piece here is indented, whereas on the F40 I can feel it, but it's just a sticker. Now that may well be how it is on the F40, I couldn't tell you. And then I would say that these window glass engravings, inverted commas, and stickers on these bits are a little bit excessive compared to these. It's more subtle on there. There you see, there it is, just at the top there. We can just see it there. It's more subtle, it's more in keeping, and you've got it on this side glass here. But it's interesting, you'll see the relationship between this car in this cockpit area with that shape around to here. Now this is a bit more laid back on the F40, but I'm not really here to compare an F40 and a GTO. So right, we've opened the headlights. That again is a sticker on the F40, on the Kyosho, and on the Tamiya that is indented. So a bit more detail. Let's have a look at the headlight detail down here, the driving lights. Very nice. And again you've got detail there, so they're fairly comparative. One of the things about diecast here is that you get slightly softer corners. So that's a nacre duct there on the front of the F40 from Kyosho in diecast metal. And I would say that nacre duct is a little bit soft as a combination of the diecast metal and the paint on it. Now the GTO doesn't have a nacre duct, but let's look at the nearest equivalent. That's quite a good, I would say that's going to be equivalent to the actual car. Now there's a step there which probably doesn't exist on the real car. Maybe this was impossible to mould or something, I don't know, maybe it is on the real car. There it doesn't have the step, but if you see what I mean, you've got a join, you've got a shut line there between two panels. Right, okay, now they both have Pininfarina logos. Now whether the F40, how much the F40 was styled by Pininfarina I'm not sure, but of course some of the styling was taken over from the GTO, because it is basically an evolution of that car. Okay, so we were opening the headlights, and now we're going to open the front clam on the F40, and we'll see some detail, suspension detail there, some radiator detail. That must be the headlight mechanism detail perhaps in there. Come round, washer bottle, some luggagey looking things, and the master cylinders, etc. Let's do a comparison here, and we should be able to open the nose of the GTO. Done that a bit poorly. So on this car you have these things which fit into, I should have removed this first, under this cover here you've got these which these things fit into, so I just pulled that up wrong. Right, on this car you've got the spare space saver spare tyre, complete with nice detail, similar levels of detail really. You've got a sticker here, whether the other car had a little Rampante Cavallino on the luggagey looking piece. Let's look at the radiator fans. So what you don't get really is an authentic opening of this bonnet. It doesn't open in the way that it would conventionally open, but you do have a bonnet prop. There we go, and that can go there. And let's see, if I put that nose on, that bonnet prop isn't going to work, so you're not going to be able to keep the bonnet up on this car. So I'm going to shut that bonnet now. Whereas this car, The clamshell is fine. It's got these cables or to hold that from going too far. So you can display that open quite nicely on the Kyosho. Right, time to open the doors, and like I said, there appears to be a magnet in the door on the Tamiya, but it appears to be the wrong way around because it's repelling, which is not great. Okay, so I'm left trying to get my fingernails in there. Okay, hold on. Right, okay, I was able to get my fingernail on top of that black bit there. Okay, so now of course the GTO has a bit of an advantage in that it's got a fancier interior in real life because it's not a race come track car. So you've got nicer road style seats, and then you've got good interior detail. Let's see if we can see any pedals down there. It's all pretty black, but looking down through there, I would say you've got better gear lever gate representation. Let's just pop over to here, and the gear lever gate, you can see the slots are filled in with silver plastic. It should be a proper H pattern in there. So while we're at it, let's pick this door open. There we go, and squeeze round. Okay, so I've mentioned in my individual review of this car, the seats are a little pink. I don't know why. The seat belts don't fit they don't flop in a scale kind of way. They're a little bit too stiff for their scale. But yeah, you've got you can see the pedals down there. You can see the floor, which is a bare floor in this car, maybe with rubber mats on it near the pedals. But not bad. You've got seatbelt detail. Going back over to the GTO from Tamiya, which I managed to shut the door on. You probably heard. We do have seatbelts. They're in there. They're very dark. There's the buckle there, I think. Let's see if that adapts. Yeah, you can just about see them. But because they're not fed through the seats like on a racing car, like on the F40, they sit there more politely, shall we put it, which is better for the sake of the model. So that's an advantage of the fact that this was the road car with a nicer interior without, this, that and the other. So you've got a nice chrome door shut there, which might actually be the magnetic bit. Let's have a look. Okay, so that's repelling. Now, do I feel anything? Oh, and then I'm attracted. So the magnets in the door are purely to hold them shut. They're not to help me open them. So that was incorrect about it being a manufacturing fault. Right, so let's come back out. Oh, let's have a look at that door card. Again, fairly plain, because we are talking about a mid-80s car, really. There's no, whilst this is the luxury F40, it's not that luxurious. So, moving back, we've got, let's see if this has got a magnet in it. Yep, it does. So, you've got an opening door filler there with a nicely represented black plastic, I guess, with a Cavallino Rampante on it. Fuel filler cap, and again we've got it on the other side. And on this side, actually, this isn't the same cap, so it's probably doing a different function. Put in the comments below what the different caps do on the GTO. Okay, whereas on the F40 we'll use the picker tool to open that, and we've got a nice silver, I mean it will be a polished aluminium in real life, nicely represented. I think you can see the opening mechanism in there on the top of the cap, and we'll open the other one, and it's the same cap. So this is you can no doubt fill the tanks from either side. And from what I remember, the F40 in real life has carbon fibre fuel tanks, or Kevlar perhaps, which need to be replaced every few years, which is why you don't really want an F40. One of the reasons you don't want an F40, but you do want a GTO. Right, okay, so we're getting to the back of the car, and while we're on the F40, we'll open up the clam, and we need to prop that open with this prop into the correct receiving point, which is probably going to be reasonably accurate to the actual car. So there we go. Now let's talk. Okay, that was opening the F40. Let's similarly open the Tamiya. So I'm going to take off this this plastic piece here, and I'm going to use the magnetic tool to open up that. Now on this particular car, you'll see that point there, the hinge point. On this side I've got a piece missing. I suspect the shop had it open before they sold it to me and damaged and lost that little bit. So on this car you do also have a prop, so rather than taking the engine lid off, I'm going to try to prop that up, and I think it goes there, or was it further down there? Right there. Oh, I think it's supposed to be down there, but because this hinge point is broken, what I'm gonna do is not use the prop, and I'm just going to let that shut and pull the engine cover off. You have to pull it off from the closed position, don't try pulling it off from the lifted position. Right, okay, so in the F40, sorry, the GTO, we can see a lot more of the guts of the engine because there's a little bit less here. It's obviously a less heavily tuned car, basically the same engine, but it's lower power, 400 horsepower if I remember rightly, compared to the F40, which I think had over 500. We've got sticker detail, we've got clamps and hoses and pipes for the intercoolers, we've got mechanical linkages up on the engine, we've got the fuel feed system, pipes and things, the oil filler. You can see it really nicely in here. Yes, you've got a Phillips screwdriver, Phillips head screw on the top of the struts, but that's for obviously manufacturing purposes when they made the model. So let's switch over to the F40, and there is more in here, particularly these heat shields over the exhaust are kind of getting in the way of the detail, but there's still, and the intake plenum on the top, you don't really have that top mounted plenum with the long, what would be called runners or inlet manifolds. So tuning has taken a precedence here. That's what we're really seeing in the difference between the engines and the clutter. So in a way it's maybe less appealing to look at. You've got a very similar level of detail between the two cars. You've got oil coolers with hoses in the back here. You've got the exhaust outlets coming out. So you've got good detail, you just can't get in and see it. Let's switch back to the GTO, and you can definitely see a lot more in there, right down to the gearbox. You've got a similar layout of things. One of the things people love about the GTO is the gearbox hanging out the back there. It's quite a nice, quite a strange thing. You don't normally see that on a car, but it just gives it a bit more of a race edge because it was designed to become a racing car for the Group B series. Right, okay, so let's just look around the back. Oh, I've just zoomed accidentally, sorry about that. The lights, again, you've got the pairs of round lights, and similarly that's carried over on the much more brutally shaped F40. Right, I'm going to fold that back up. There we go. And let's put this back on. In there, and the plastic hiding piece there. Okay, so if I prop that up correctly, this piece would be able to stay in place and you would be able to display the car. So it was only the front of the car that the prop wasn't going to work because it was just too slidey. But you might have been able to tweak that to bring some friction back. Let's just look at some details I may have missed. So, windscreen wipers. Pair of them, fairly, I'm not sure. Don't know. I mean, there's detail there, and the single one on the F40. The wheels, that's going to be quite an important thing to look at. So, looking at the detail of the wheels, let's compare this front wheel. It's got a spring clip in it with a centre lock wheel. You've got the valve detail, you've got the split rim detail, and if we look at the tyres, we've got good tyre detail there. We don't have tyre markings on the sidewall of the tyre. Let's switch over to the GTO from Tamiya. Right, okay, so we've got, I would say, slightly better wheels. There's some polished parts to this wheel which you don't get on the F40, and of course with the spring clips missing, it's a bit tidier. You've still got the valve cap detail. I mean, similar stuff. You've got some brake detail behind there. Brake caliper showing on this car as we roll it. Yeah, you've got brake calipers showing there as well. It might even say Brembo or something on that, I can't tell. Yes, it does. On the F40. Let's look at the underside and we can see the tyre detail at that point. So I'm going to turn this car over. Excuse the rustle of the bubble wrap. I just didn't want these cars rolling off. Right, so yeah, we've got reasonable detail there. Good suspension detail, nice fine components. They're not oversizing it because it's the model. Get down in there, let's see what we can see. Yeah, springs and struts. Now before I go any further, let's do the same for the F40. Now, some parts are going to come flying open on this car. So, looking at that front suspension detail, very similar in detail to the GTO from Tamiya. Reasonably authentic. One big difference you'll notice about the F40 is that it's got a lot more under tray under the car. But so the detail is different. I mean, you're looking around the engine here, you've got the sump there, and if we switch back to the GTO from Tamiya, you see the same sump detail there, but you can see a whole lot more stuff. So some of these structural details are the same on both the cars, but you've got a whole plate on the GTO going across there. Just let's look in there, you can see the hub carrier, the suspension detail, drive shafts with gaiters. You can look down there, you can see the anti-roll bar, the high mounted anti-roll bar. Let's cut back across to the GTO from Tamiya. Again, you can see the hub carrier, the drive shaft going from there all the way out to there. You've got a low mounted anti-roll bar here. You know, there's an advantage to having this older car that you can see a lot more in terms of admiring the model. And you've got a low mounted exhaust. Well, there's no under tray underneath the exhaust system, so you can see a lot more there. Whereas here it's hidden by the aero parts, the venturi, etc. So one thing you'll notice about the Tamiya model, it's got a Ferrari GTO number plate, whereas the Kyosho just has a blank space. So if you own a real F40, maybe you'd get your own number plates made up for your model F40. Who knows? So there we go. I'm just going to turn these back over for the finishing sequence. Right, one thing I've done for this closing sequence is angle the front wheels as if they were being steered. The Tamiya doesn't go very far. The F40, the Kyosho does, but of course they both reveal the fact that their kingpin axis, the axis that the steering each wheel turns around, is too far inboard, so you don't really get a good representation of the turn of the wheels. So I like to keep mine straight ahead, but there we go. The other thing I noticed turning them over is the Kyosho is heavier, being die-cast metal, but the Tamiya is of course lighter, being plastic. The plastic model is clearly superior. It's definitely the better model, largely because of the finish. The paint finish I would put it down to mainly, and then there's some just nice details. And it is a more expensive model. You'll be paying $600–700 for a Tamiya GTO, and you'll be paying $300 to $400, maybe $400 for a Kyosho F40, which reflects the real life values of the car as well. Ferrari only made 272 of these, and something like 1,300 F40s, so you know, but different people like different things. The GTO is probably my favourite looking car of all time. Do see my other review video of the GTO, and do see my other review video of the F40. There'll be links at the end and in the description for this video. I do recommend having a look at my eBay search tool, Buy Now Search. I bought this F40 on there for less than half price, on eBay for less than half price, because my Buy Now Search system sent me a notification email within about 3 minutes of the item being listed, and it was priced extremely competitive, so I snapped it up as soon as I saw it. So do have a look at Buy Now Search, where you can have a free account and store your eBay search within Buy Now Search, and it will email you notifications of new items being listed. Because of course a new item that's buy it now can be bought within minutes of it being listed. An auction, you've got plenty of time to do it. So this enables you to catch those buy it now items that would otherwise get sold before you even saw them. So thank you for watching. Do subscribe to the channel. There will be more videos. Do have a look at my model car review playlist of my videos, and hopefully you'll hear from me more soon. Thank you.